Hello. I'm Courtney LeBlanc, and I am your poet in pajamas tonight. I'm going to chat for a couple minutes to allow people to join the room, and then I'll read some poems. So, a little bit of introduction. I am the author of three collections of poetry. I'll talk about them a little more in a second as people start joining in. I am coming to you from my home in Arlington, Virginia, which is about 5 miles from the White House, so it can be chaotic here sometimes, depending on politics. I'm at home with my two dogs, Piper and Cricket. They are currently quiet in the background, but they are notorious that when I'm on any sort of live video event, they like to start playing very aggressively, and it sounds like I have a dog fight in my room. I don't. They're just very big, goofy dogs, and they like to make a lot of noise and play really hard. So if they start doing that, I may mute for a second just to make sure that everyone can hear me. So as I said, I'm the author of three collections of poetry. My first one, Beautiful and Full of Monsters, that came out March 10th of 2020, the week the pandemic shut down the world. Super fun. Exquisite Bloody, Beating Heart. This one came out in July of 21, still in a pandemic. And my third book is coming out this spring from Riot Bloody, and I hope that as we move towards some normalcy, I can do all the things to celebrate that you would normally do when a book comes out. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Huge thanks to Poets in Pajamas. I love this reading series. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's interesting and different. I'm wearing a tank top, kind of see. That's what I wear when I sleep. So I tried to hold true to the theme. Thank you so much to Shannon, who curates this event. I'm super excited to read, and I've been wanting to read with Poets in Pajamas for a while. So this is kind of a dream come true. So I'm going to start by reading a poem that tends to be a little bit fun and has a lot of good audience reaction usually. It's titled, To My Ex Who Asked If Every Poem Was About Him. I wish you happiness, but the kind that makes you think of me when your life has fallen asleep. I wish you 2% raises and average performance evaluation. I wish you casseroles and Bud Light. I wish you vacations to Disney World in July. I wish you khakis and plaid button-ups. I wish you sex, but only missionary position and only with the lights out. I wish you calendar reminders and capped peace. I wish you individually wrapped low-fat cheese slices and turkey bacon, which insults two animals. I wish you mayonnaise and store-bought white bread. I wish you decaf coffee. I wish you sleeping in until 7 a.m. on Sundays. I wish you instant oatmeal microwaved each morning for your heart health. I wish you a tie each Father's Day and a birthday card received a week late. I wish you a daughter who writes poetry filled with metaphors about a complicated family relationship. I wish you a football team that never makes the playoffs and a son who's an average soccer player. I wish you this poem popping up first the next time you Google me. And this next poem is titled First Date, and it's a true story. Women can't drive my car, he said, adjusting his mirrored sunglasses. Because it's stick? I asked. Because they don't know how to drive fast, he said. My mind flashed a warning like flares after an accident. In his lenses, I saw my reflection and the two roads before me. The girl who could giggle and ignore it, or the girl who refused to be his assumption. I held my hand out. Give me the keys. I gunned the engine, left tire tracks on the pavement, looping like an autograph. He watched the needle of the speedometer pulse, a thin red knife, thin as the stretched smile he'd given me when we first met. I laughed and pushed harder, foot pressing down on pedal, pressing down on the bullshit line he'd given me, pressing down on every bullshit line every man had ever given me. I hit triple digits. I'd never driven this fast before. I pulled back into his lot and popped the brake, returning him to the place he'd crawled out from under. I tossed him the keys and walked away, left him standing in the parking lot. I reapplied my lipstick, Didn't bother to watch him grow small in the rearview mirror as I drove away. Highly recommend not driving 100 miles per hour through the streets of Baltimore. It was terrifying, but fuck that dude. Tell me I can't drive fast. This next one is titled Self-Portrait With and Without. With soy milk. With a latte drunk each morning in the kitchen, without the lights on because you slept on the couch again and I don't want to wake you. With dinner with friends, everything fine, without conversation during the car ride back. With negotiations as to who walks the dog when we get home. With you in front of the computer when I go to bed, without the weight of you beside me. Without my rings on when I sleep because my fingers swell. With them on the next day, newly cleaned and brilliant. With the sun prisming off the diamonds as I drive to work. With me spinning them around as I fly, my fingers puffy by the time I land. Without them on when I shower away the day's grime. With my hands bare as I open the door and let him in, with my hands on him without a word said. And this next poem is titled, If Certain Physicists Are Correct, There Are Infinite Universes. If they're right, then I believe one exists where we're together. Where your hand reaches out each morning and finds my body solid beside you in bed. The sun just peeking through. If there is another universe, we hold hands in it, and I don't scan the crowds to see if someone I know is watching. In that universe, your mouth meets mine, and all I think about is the urgency of your tongue. Still the green trees and blooming flowers, the wind tangling my hair. But in that universe, it's salt water and an ocean breeze, and your arms pulling me close as another wave surges over us. In that universe, we drive with the top down every day, point out rainbows when they appear. If there's another universe, you are still you, and he is still he, and I am still me. But in this universe, I'm with him, and in that universe, I'm with you. In another universe, I don't have to worry about whose heart I'm going to break. So now I'm going to read some new poems that are going to be in my new collection. People sort of don't tell you that when you publish a book of poetry, by the time the book actually comes out and is published, you've read those poems like a million times. And so the poems in my first two books, I love them, but I feel like I've read them and a lot of people have heard them a bunch. So I'm going to read some new stuff. In fact, I'm reading a couple of poems that I've not ever read before to any sort of audience. So I'm super excited to share these with you. And the first one is titled, Would You Ever Get Your Spouse's Name Tattooed? A question posted on Twitter. We'd been separated 6 months, and you'd been dating someone for 2 months when you called to tell me my name now graced your bicep. I looked at the kitchen that was now only mine, the fridge with the broken handle, the stove with only 3 working burners. We're not getting back together, I finally said. It's a testament, you corrected, to the years we spent together. I was wife number 2, and you tell me your first night wife's name is inked onto your other bicep. Where will your third wife's name, where will you put your third wife's name? I quipped. I'll never marry again, you insisted. Years later, I will spend hours getting my entire left arm tattooed, a delicate sleeve that my second husband does not like. He cannot comprehend how they make me feel beautiful. I waited 7 years to remarry, uncertain I wanted to do it again, uncertain I could. You remarried 7 months after our divorce was finalized. I don't know where her name resides. This next poem, a lot of people have heard it already, but I really love it, so I want to share it. I grew up on a farm in North Dakota. My dad was a farmer, and for those who have not had the misfortune of traveling there in the winter, it is brutally cold. -30 is normal, and some of them, lots and lots of snow. It's one of the coldest places in the country. So this poem is titled, You Ain't Shit. You ain't shit, North Dakota. You're all snow and flat and forever horizon. You flyover state. You mega hat Fox News junkie. The year I left, it snowed on June 1st. June 1st, you motherfucker. Can't bury the dead in a North Dakota winter unless you bonfire first. My 18th birthday brought a storm that shuts down a state that knows how to deal with snow. North Dakota laughed at chains on tires, laughed at the fools who tried to leave their neighborhoods. My father cleared the driveway with the snowblower, and North Dakota punked him and dropped another 8 inches, as if his work was ever done. And now he's dying. You did that to him, North Dakota. You did this to him, North Dakota. You broke him. His whole life spent nurturing you, feeding the world with the wheat he grew in your rich soil. He never touched the black tar of long-dead dinosaurs that sits beneath you, never mind the millions it could bring. What do? You give him thunder snow. You withhold the northern lights that have, on rare occasion, pirouetted across the sky like a bright green ballerina. I saw them once, had to pull over to gape. But my father has never seen them, and now his eyesight is failing. His hands shake. He's always cold. His one functioning kidney is stuttering to a stop. It'll drag all the other organs down with it. It won't take long, and his doctor has promised she'll make it painless. If he dies this winter, I'll cut down every tree in every forest across you, North Dakota. I'll build a fire big enough to see from space. Let the astronauts think it's the northern lights. Let everyone think the world is ending. Because for me, part of it will. Take a sip of water. So my next collection has 2 main themes. It's about my father's death and grieving the loss of him, and then about my history of disordered eating. So it's 2 really heavy topics. There is some joy in there, and it does hopefully allow space for the reader to breathe and not feel so overwhelmed. But the poems I'm reading tonight are a bit heavy, so apologies for that. This one is titled, I Don't Eat After 8 p.m. I once read you shouldn't eat after 8 p.m. if you want to lose weight. And I, a woman who hated her body for over a decade, always wanted less to hate. The week my dad died, I ate my mother's pretzel dessert with a spoon, the pan held beneath my chin like a trough, the salty, sweet combination filling my belly with calories I couldn't begin to count. I ran 7 miles each morning, the flat stretching out before me unbroken. My father lay quiet, first in the hospital, then in the living room, no longer consuming anything, his small frame quiet against the dark. When I came inside, sweat slick and panting, I kissed his face, told him about my run, the flowers blooming in the ditch, the blue sheet of sky. That night, after my mother had finally gone to bed, I sat on the chair I'd pulled to my father's bedside, ate a cloud of carbs, the homemade bread my mother baked and I grew up on. I slathered on a layer of butter, licked the melted gold from my fingertips, told him in between bites that I loved him. When my therapist asks how I'm doing, I talk about the election, my father's death, my friend's brain tumor. I don't tell her about my 2.5-hour workout that morning, how I wouldn't stop until I burned 1,000 calories. I don't tell her of my daily ritual of stripping down, exhaling every ounce of breath before stepping onto the scale. How if I have a hair tie around my wrist, it must be removed and the ritual repeated. I don't tell her I know the calories of my morning coffee, 102, or my yogurt and granola, 170, or how I fear growing into my mother's body. I spent over a decade eating nothing more than an apple and 2 rice cakes between the hours of 8 and 4. When I gave up that slow march toward a hungry death, I thought I'd be normal. But what is normal if not tracking every bite of broccoli? If not knowing the calories in a single baby carrot? I don't tell my therapist this because I like when my clavicles arch out from my chest, when my hip bones jut forward like handlebars. I don't tell her because I don't want to talk about what ended 15 years ago, even if its fingerprints remain etched on me permanently. Instead, I talk about the daily hikes with my dog, my friend's chemo regimens, the new meditation app I downloaded. The session ends, and I scoop up the rumpled Kleenex and dump them in the garbage. There's a bowl of leftover Halloween candy near the exit. I dig for a Snickers, pop the bite-sized chocolate into my mouth, and make it last until I reach my car. This time, I don't record it. This time, I regret not taking two. And the last poem I'm going to read for you is titled What This Elegy Wants, and it's after Tarfia Fazula. It doesn't want flowers or flowery language. In fact, it wants to quiet the poet in me. It wants to remind me my father was of the earth and wants wheat instead of white lilies, wants soybeans and sunflowers and the seeds he spread each spring. After he quit farming, he planted a garden, and every summer we bonded over tomatoes and cucumbers, the mint I had to tear up at the root to stop from taking over. And when he died in the fall, my garden kept producing, as if he were there, gentling the vegetables into giving more. Each time I buried my hands in the soil, I talked to my father, certain he could hear me, certain his hands were covering mine, guiding me as I weeded and thinned and harvested. What this elegy wants is a garden every summer, the sun kissing the seedlings that burst through the ground, my hands digging quietly. This elegy wants earth and sunshine and soft rain. This elegy wants my hands in the dirt, my father in the soil of my heart, growing long past the season of his life. I'm going to end there with the reading, and we're going to move on to the question section or question portion. I'm going to scroll down so I can see. I know there's a bit of a delay. So, question, yes. So, riot in your throat. I started during the pandemic. I really wanted a way to give back to the community and become more active in the poetry community. And so I started a press, an independent poetry press called Riot in Your Throat. We publish fierce feminist poets. This year we will publish our 7th book. So it's really exciting. I am slightly obsessed with the press and the poets we published. So definitely check them out if you can. I will put the link to the website in the chat. We are open for submissions in November. So if you have a full-length manuscript that you're looking for a home, I would love to read it. I'm going to scroll down so I can see some of the questions. Sorry, it just takes a second. Oh, obvious question. How has this pandemic changed the way I work, read, and make sense in your writing community? It's, there's good and bad. Virtual has meant that people from all over the world can attend meetings, or attend readings that they wouldn't otherwise be able to be a part of. And for me, that's really wonderful. The hard part is you don't get the interaction, and there is something so absolutely fulfilling about reading to a live crowd and having them feed off what you're saying and react to what you're saying. So that's really, really what I miss. I do love that. I think I had a reading once where I had a friend from Alaska, Hawaii, and New Zealand all in the same reading, which that's never going to happen in real life. So the fact that that could happen because of the pandemic, I think that that's a good thing, even if it's kind of terrible for all the reasons. Are there children's stories you read as a child that inspired your storytelling today? I don't know. When I was a kid, we grew up on a farm in North Dakota in a really tiny farming community. There were population 550. Now, I think there were 700 when I lived there. But my mom took us to the library every week or every other week, and I just remember checking out as many books as I can. So I remember reading Nancy Drew. I remember reading Little House on the Prairie because I grew up in the prairie, and they're actually set in North Dakota. And that was sort of my childhood. I read anything and everything I could get my hands on. Even now, I'm a voracious reader. I read over 300 books a year. I read poetry every night before I go to bed. And it's really amazing. What books have I been reading lately? Um, I might have to come back to that question because I read so many that they don't often stay in my head for super long, particularly the titles of them. But poets I really love are Kelly Grace Thomas, rather. Her book from Yes Yes Books is amazing. Boat Burn. I highly recommend everyone run out and grab that. It's super fantastic. I really love Megan Fowley and everything she writes, Andrea Gibson and everything they write, Jean Ann Verlee, everything she writes. A lot of really, really great poets. Goals for my own writing or for the press. For my own writing, I just literally last night, I think, put the final touches on my next collection of poetry, the one coming out in the spring. So I'm really excited about that. Next year, I'm planning on doing an actual in-person book tour, and I'm super excited to travel around the country and meet people and share poems with them. For the press, I hope it just keeps continuing. I've been so excited about the submissions I get and the collections of poetry I've been able to publish. It's such a rewarding and fulfilling thing to have a book in your hand and know that you helped bring it to fruition. For a lot of the poets that I've published, it's their first or second books. Most of them, it's been their first books. I think 5 of the 7 have been their first books, which is super exciting. And for me, just knowing that I was a part of that is amazing. So I hope I continue to get more and more submissions, because that means I can publish more and more books of poetry. Our goal is to publish 4 books every year, or up to 4 books every year. So I'm really hopeful that, those come in and that we can find them. Shannon, I'm super excited about staying with you in Denver as well and snuggling with your puppies. Let's see if there's any more questions. I often get talked about or asked about my process because I'm very, very type A. So I have a full-time job. I run a small business, the Independent Press. I have my own writing, and then I also do freelance editing, so like on manuscripts or individual poems. So my writing process is a little bit of squeeze it in when you can, but I tend to work on poetry early in the morning. So when I have my morning coffee, I will sort of scroll through things and see, what's going on, if I need to handle any like actual business, any poetry business, like the press stuff. Or if not, I'll try to jot a crappy poem, because let's be honest, before I've had my coffee at 6 in the morning, it probably is a relatively crappy poem. But I do believe it's a muscle you need to exercise. It's one of the reasons I read so much, because, it's that concept of keep good sentences in your ears. If you keep poetry in your ears, I think that you become a more prolific writer. And I am all about writing really shitty first drafts. I think that in order to write good poems, you have to write some crappy poems first. And so allowing yourself the time and space to write anything is fantastic. And you never know what comes from that. How many full journals of written poems, published or not, do you have? So I wish you could see in my room, but I have the lights off so that the aesthetics are a little bit better. I have a bookshelf, one shelf on the bookshelf that's in this room. There are multiple bookshelves in my house that is dedicated just to my filled journals. And looking at them, I would say I probably have sitting over there probably 40 to 50. And that's all of my rough drafts. So like this is my current, I gotta scroll so I can make sure I'm showing you all this. This is my current journal. I can't really see it very well with the light. And I like to handwrite my poems first. Most poems I handwrite first, and then I type them up on my computer and do edits, from my laptop. But handwriting for me is just I just feel really connected to my writing when I do it that way. I think that I also write on my cell phone because there are just times when I don't have a notebook handy, and I will try to, jot something down. I am excited, yes, Melissa, to stay with you in Lawrence. Which is in Kansas, I've started booking readings for my next book, and Melissa and I actually have a joint reading in Kansas City in next August, which is super exciting. I can't wait to go and see and like be a part of that community. I will give it just another minute, and then if we have anything else, we'll go from there. Let me look at my, I'll look at some book recommendations while I wait for another question to come in. I have to track them all because otherwise I never remember what I've actually read or haven't, which is, I guess, the problem with being a prolific reader is sometimes you forget what you've read. This year I have read thus far 241 books, and we are at the middle of September. I read very, very fast. What part of next year is your Riot Bloody book expected out? It's going to be officially published early April. Anyone attending AWP, the writing conference in Seattle next March, I will have copies available there. So like that's kind of the soft launch, and then it's officially launching in early April, or officially being published in early April, which I am really excited about for a lot of reasons. A couple of books of poetry I would recommend. If you haven't read Torrin Greathouse's collection, Wound from the Mouth of a Wound, it is phenomenal. I'm sorry, but how many poems about your younger sister in your new book? Well, Kirsten, AKA my younger sister, there are several poems about you. They don't call you out by name, but I do think they say my sister. And so you will be able to read about yourself in some of the poems, which is really funny. Yeah, it's an intense read, but I think that it's good. Are there other genres you have interest in writing in? I toy sometimes. I've written a couple of creative nonfiction essays. No desire to write novels. I love reading novels. I have absolutely no idea, literally no idea how anyone writes a novel. You have to have dialogue, no clue what that is. You have to do plot, no clue what that is. You have to use real words, which in the great thing about poetry, we get to make up our own words. Nouns become verbs, become whatever we want. And that's generally frowned upon in, writing a real novel. So I don't have any desire to ever write a novel. I love reading novels. And creative nonfiction, maybe. I go back and forth about trying to write a memoir, but I think that for me, I will mostly stick with poetry and maybe dabble a little bit, and who knows? We'll see where it goes. Thanks for taking care of that spam, Shannon. I was really interested in a spiritual advisor though, because, you never know. Okay, we're going to wrap up here in another minute or so. I don't want to take everyone's time. Again, huge thank you to Poets in Pajamas. Huge thank you to Shannon for curating both a wonderful lineup this year and for just being an amazing person. I'm really excited that I got to read tonight. I really love this reading series, and I'm almost 100% certain that it is recorded and then it's posted either to Poets in Pajamas. I think it's posted on their Facebook page. It might also be posted somewhere else, but I can find out. And I'll just announce this because I just saw it pop up. Next reader is on October 2nd. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening to me read poems. I really appreciate it. I can't wait to see some of you in person next year on the book tour. I'm really excited about that, and I am grateful for everything that everyone does to support poetry. I think poetry is really important, and I think that everyone should absolutely do and read more of poetry, because you just can't, it's perfect for everything. So support poets, buy their books, spread the love, share a poem you love. That's all we can ask for. Thank you so much.